Hello, hi, Hassan.
Hi, good morning. Well, morning for me. I'm in LA. How are you?
I'm fine. It's 10 past 5, I guess, in Cambridge. Yeah.
Oh, you're in the UK.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for doing this. Andy, did Andy this morning send you um, a link to my work, the project I did in Lesbos? The
I,
re-
s- he sent me something, but I couldn't really look at it because I was very packed with other things. So, but what a coincidence, we were all there at the time.
yeah, it was watching Human Flow again. I had seen it when it first came out, but rewatching it. Uh,
Mhm.
I recognized my friends from that island and of course all the locations. I kept thinking maybe
Mhm.
I would pop up, but that was actually I was an English teacher at the time and that project our translator was Yazidi. And so when we were done filming and we were in the
Mhm.
camp on the Macedonian border and all of the locations seen in your film, um,
Mhm.
so after we were done filming, we would go and have tea and meals with my Yazidi families,
Mhm.
extended relatives and everything. And that was sort of my genesis, the genesis of my project of Mediha, just sort of learning about, uh, I guess, the tortured past of these people. And I just
Mhm.
I didn't have the resources at the time, 2015, 2016, to tell that story how I wanted to tell it. But yeah, those first days on Lesbos is uh, without them, Mediha never gets made.
Mhm. Yeah, after I watched the film, I realized, I started to approach the ladies 2014 and early 2000, yeah, 15. We sent a team there. It's just trying to find out what is a refugee and why they become a refugee in the camps. So yeah, we did a lot of interviews and did films, and also I selected for the Venice Biennale's uh, exhibition on their paintings and drawings and poetry. I That's my first time being connected to the group of people. They call themselves refugees, and so I got to know who are they, and how they become a refugee.
And that was called Traces of Survival? That was that project, right?
That project later developed into the film Human Flow.
Okay.
Without that connection, I would not go to after I get my passport. I went to Lesbos, so this is really a trigger to get first-hand knowledge, and then after Lesbos, of course, we can start develop quite some other films in Rohingyas and also other refugee camps. Yeah.
And had you known about the genocide or the Yazidi people prior to that work?
No, uh, yeah, the real connection is we spent about less than 1 month in their camp, in Iraq camp, and did a very, how to say, a complete project. Interviewed 100 Zahiris and asked them to uh, to tell their stories. We did videos and photos. So after the initial contacts, I realized they are they're so innocent, the people, and so pure, and it's probably the most innocent people you can find on earth.
Yeah.
So of course that kind of feeling developed when we're making the human flow.
Yeah. And you had also, I'm aware of your work after the Sichuan earthquake. That was like 2000, 2008.
2008, yes, that's
Yeah.
the beginning of my kind of investigation journalist approach about any uh, disasters. I really do not trust any media, but to really to think if you really care, you have to be there. So that's my approach, and which it really works well and make me really get first-hand knowledge and get human understanding about the world condition.
And, and it was, so the name, searching for the missing, for the names, that really, struck the similarities between that and how our working title for the film was The Missing. And not only how do we find at the time the 3,000 Yazidis who were still in ISIS captivity or otherwise missing, but also, I guess, creating a space for remembrance of the Yazidis, that the world moved on very quickly from what had happened to the Yazidis, as we do with a lot of these tragedies. But what was what was important to you about sort of getting these names of the victims of the earthquake, in uh, you know so that they could not be forgotten? What was sort of the impetus behind that?
Well, when you have this kind of tragic, then you realize loss of life. Then you realize it can be easily just replaced by numbers.
Yeah.
Media, government, or public consumption. It's just some numbers. So for me, that's not enough. For me, it's not just I have to find the individuals, real people, but rather to connect myself to those individuals, to say, to share the same kind of value and qualities. Then by doing that, I realize my existency. Not to do that is denying myself. It's not just about them, it's really about me. I cannot like this kind of public general uh, assumptions to deny my existence. So that pushed me into investigation to say, okay, here's the one, and that's the name, that's the birthday, that's the parents. So that make my existence become more solid and more touchable. Otherwise, feel I will feel some kind of self insulted
Mm.
in front of those kind of so-called truths or facts, but not to make action. Not to respond to the truth. So I think any truths need to become truths only have to take individuals' effort to be connected.
Yeah. um when we so in Mediha, it was really important for, I wasn't exactly sure what would come from handing the lens or handing the camera to the participants. And in this case, Mediha, she really took the reins. Of course, her brothers and others did film as well, but she really took the reins. And I saw her using, I guess, the medium of film or art as a way to regain some semblance of agency. um, it was very impressive to me how quickly she took to it. But uh, again, how she used the camera to heal, and to begin processing things that had happened to her in the past, things that were currently happening to her within, a community that did not encourage speaking out, did not encourage, especially women and girls who had just been through this atrocity. They did not encourage it. So I was very moved by not only how well she took to filming, and how it sort of started to give her, it started to enable, beginning to get her voice back. And yeah.
I think she is brave first, and of course, when she has this kind of profound knowledge and has been suffering through, she understands every second she's taking as evidence to humanity, and which is very profound, and it's going to be testifying for the very broad loss for other people. So I think without that kind of belief, you cannot really take those images because it's hurting anyhow. And also, but if you understand that this is a possible, I'm not saying revenge, but possible uh, action in defending yourself, then this action become meaningful because this kind of personal effort. So I think she did very well, and I think she is absolutely intelligent in and in the way very, how do you call, very relaxed doing that. Even this is so intense, but still you can see she suffered so much. This is an it's a healing process for her. So yeah, I'm deeply impressed.
Thank you. And that healing process, it was real. It was, it started again when how she says it, and I wish she could be here today. She's very sick, but how she says it in her Q&As at film festivals and after screenings, is that the camera was her first friend, her only friend at the time. Um, it was a therapist before she knew what therapy was or what a therapist was. And it allowed her, she had this great weight, as she describes it. It allowed that to start,
Mhm.
falling off her shoulders. And it started, it was the first steps toward healing that she
Yeah,
experienced. And she
I
said, yeah.
yes, go ahead. She
So
says what?
yeah, so she sits in and watches the film at every film festival, and that's hundreds of times now, and she describes it as it's the process of healing from what she went through. And she always says, seeing herself on screen, it's a continuation of she always says, I feel powerful, I feel powerful. And that started when she first picked up the camera, and it's continues to this day. She has to be held back from certain events and certain PR things, because if it was up to her, she would be on the road the whole time, sharing her story and her film with the world. So it's very, inspiring to see that she's continuing to use it as a source of, not only to heal, but as a source of personal power.
I think all those tragic happens very often. Most time they will stop your individual's will because that is so hurting and it's so damaging. Only a few people can overcome that, and I hope she is the one. When I was detained for some days, I disappeared. Once I come out, the people care about me, like my mom or other people. They really want to know what really happened,
Mm,
and but they also shy to ask. So and also I couldn't find words to explain what really happened because all those words are not really ready for this kind of very extreme situation. So I said, why don't I just make a film? So I
mm,
made a little film called Damas. It's like a punk music. I was singing first time doing a punk music with my rock and roll friend helped me. And also I made a 6 box to show the 6 conditions of my life, everyday life. So I also exhibited the 6 box called a sacrifice in many exhibitions. Even my mom looks through those windows of the box, get to know what is really the life is is like, and that is beyond words, and also that for me is a healing. So I w- I would not feel shamed, and I would really uh, put the guilt under the to accuse this kind of inhuman treatment of human beings. So
yeah, and she echoes both of the things you said. You know, at the beginning, she says, "I don't know." You know, at the beginning of our film, she says, "I don't know how to explain this. I don't know how would I explain this to you if if I were to tell you, how would I explain this to you?" And at the then by the end, she has told us, she has told the viewer, and yeah, she always reiterates that these speaking on it and letting people in through her own way about what happened to her, it's been very healing for her.
yes, I think that is very frank, honest, and brave to let others to be with you and to accompany you through this kind of very vulnerable, intimate feelings. So that's I think that's the quality of the film.
Yeah, and thank you. And um, I think it should also be recognized, though, that um, this is how she is healing, and this is how she feels better by releasing and talking. And it sounds like that was the same thing for you. Um, Others, and especially within the Yazidi community, other returning women and girls, but also others, anywhere in the world suffering from trauma. Um, that is not their process. And I think, on this whole festival run, for example, um, people come up to her after the screenings, and they say, um, inspired me to speak about what happened to me. Whether if it's not just taken captive by ISIS, it's gender-based violence. It's many forms of trauma. So I think that her showing that this is a way, another pathway toward healing. I think it's been remarkable. She gets direct messages on Instagram all the time of just you've inspired me to talk, you've inspired me to speak out. So I think she's outside of the film, I think that's a remarkable trait that she has. And it sounds like that same process sort of helped you when you were um, uh, coming out of dealing with all the abuse when you came out of jail.
Mm, this kind of testimony is not really just about the victim,
Mm,
but rather about the general conditions of humanity. Do we really care?
Mm.
Can we say we don't know it or we don't care because it never happened to us? It won't happen to them. So this is a voice much bigger than anything. You really put everybody, the humanity and consciousness on trial. So I think this is that's why we always need a documentary film or whatever literature or art to do that. And the ways of doing that, become a human society can become a dumb, a blind,
Yeah.
or can be corrupted, like morally corrupted. So yeah, I think that become a more than just one person's testimony, but because similar or much worse situation happens everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not just ISIS. ISIS is extreme, but there's a situation which can be accepted even by the larger society, by mainstream, which can be even more brutal and more speechless. You cannot even find the words to say how terrible and how crude the situation become. So I think every effort to make people to recognize this kind of situation is it's a gift. It's a it's a gift, and it helps to establish a basic values of humanity.
Mm. Yeah.
I grew up in this unspeak situation because my father was exiled the year I was born.
Mm.
So basically, I grew up in discrimination and insultment. But if I think about that today, I would think that period as a gift. It's a gift to me for me to understand when society under certain kind of political situation, human values means nothing.
Yeah.
That is it's just like in the coldest winter, there's no sense of life or green anywhere. So yeah, so from very extreme conditions I've been through, I understand the most vulnerable in this kind of situation is the children
Yes.
and the women, because men are more involved, but the women and the children are really just bear the consequence. They did nothing wrong. They don't even know what is going on, but they are being punished. And that kind of situation is not just happening in one or two locations. It's general condition. If we look at what happens during the war, and we can say the casualty is about children and the women.
Yeah, and we also wanted to highlight that Medea and her brothers, as you said, they are the human cost of conflict, and it's not exclusive, of course, to the Yazidis or that region. It's everywhere. There's, Medea always says she knows there's another Mediha right now in Gaza or Ukraine, and she knows that these children, her family, sorry, her siblings and her, as you said, they bear the burden of these conflicts and these atrocities through no fault of their own, of course. And so we wanted to highlight that in the film, and that was a big impetus behind us giving them the lens. Through that, we got to see them just being kids, despite what they had been through, and playing and climbing those trees, and through that we hope to show, and I think we did, and they did an amazing job. You see this resilience, that somehow these young people, these kids, they continue on, and somehow Mediha, despite what she's been through, continues on, despite, again, bearing the burden of an atrocity that they had that they had no they sorry, bearing the burden of an atrocity that they had no say. It was just they dealt. Now they're dealing with the consequences. So yeah, we wanted to give them the space to show that through their own filming.
I think it's necessary, the narratives in defending humanity, and it's absolutely should be our first effort and our last effort. So there's no argument about this, and every effort in defending the dignities of life and dignities of individuals' rights are so essential, especially today. And also, I don't think we have a bright future. It just take more people to call everybody to be involved. You know, because this is not a you give extra effort. It's the only effort you should make is to defending human rights and human conditions.
Yes,
So,
wonderfully put. I couldn't agree more.
so I really thank you very much for making this effort, and I think every effort it counts. It not just count to the the victims, but rather to say to avoid we all become a victim or we already been victimized. So we have to have our voice.
Yes, I agree, and thank you also for the work that you've done, and your your um, your art, and of course your filmmaking has been a shining light and inspiration for me as a young filmmaker back in 2015, 16, 17, and of course it continues to do so. So thank you as well.
Thank you.